Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society, bringing you our nightly update regarding the tropical basins across the planet here, and we've definitely got some stuff to discuss here tonight. The Atlantic Basin, thankfully, isn't going to be the big winner here tonight, but ooh, do I got some stuff to show y'all as far as what the long range forecast from the Climate Prediction Center came out with today, our new Global Tropics Hazards Outlook. And we'll get to that here in just a moment. But first, we're going to kind of break into the Atlantic Basin. So as we can see, we do have a highlighted area of interest. Unfortunately, we do not have this as an area of invest yet. So we're not getting the global models, or we're getting the global models, but we're not getting the hurricane specific models on this. So if we take a look, our development percentages right now are 30% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 70% chance of development over the next 7 days. This is going to be a significant concern as we go forward through this upcoming week. So we're going to look into the models here a little bit and try to determine what we can from the models here today. So on the left, we have the European model, and on the right, we have the GFS model. This is the 850 millibar cyclonic vorticity. This is to look for areas of rotation or spin approximately 1 mile above the ocean surface. Now, as we continue to run this out, we will note that we'll get it out here to 72 hours. And by the time we get it to the 72-hour mark, the GFS has consolidation and development of a tropical cyclone. The Euro, on the other hand, has maybe a broad area of a tropical depression beginning to try to form. It's not there yet. As we continue and we get to day 4, by this time the Euro definitely has a tropical storm at this point, and the next name on the list is Gabrielle. The GFS, on the other hand, has a well-developed system, and they're in close proximity to one another. The Euro may be just a little bit faster than what the GFS, and that has been a consistent a consistent signal from these models over the last few days. The Euro always being a little bit faster than the GFS. Now, here we are out to day 5. We're going to get out to day 6. And we're going to get out to day 7. Now, as you could see, the GFS is much further to the north compared to what we have with the Euro operational run. But all in all, we do know that this wave is, as far as the models are concerned, forecast to potentially develop, and that's why there is a likely 70% chance of development from the National Hurricane Center. Now, as we get into day 8, day 9, as you can see, the Euro and the GFS want to follow some similar tracks to what we have with maybe Fernand and maybe Aaron. As far as the curvature to the north, with the persistent frontal boundaries that are forecast to kind of stay in place across the eastern portions of the United States, reinforcing periodic weakness in the western side of the Atlantic high pressure, or known as the Bermuda High. So we're now going to compare what we had with our areas of spin with the humidity levels in our atmosphere. We have the European models on the left and the GFS models on the right. The top models represent the 500 millibar level, or approximately 3 to 3.5 miles above the ocean surface. The bottom 2 frames represent the 700 millibar level, which is approximately 2 miles above the ocean surface. We are looking for that dry air in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. So brown represents our dry air, green represents our moisture. So now if we go out to day 3, we do remember on our areas of spin that we have a consolidated area of a developed storm, as we could see here, both confirmed at the 500 and 700 millibar level on the GFS. The euro, on the other hand, is still a little bit, maybe a little bit more of a mid-level circulation, and a surface, obviously, has a little bit more of a coherent signature in the mid-level than it does here at the 700 millibar level. But all four models show the potential of dry air off to its west and northwest. Okay, so let's erase this and let's get up to day 4. Now, by the time that we get to day 4, we do know that the Euro and the GFS both had Gabrielle there on the vorticity signature. Now, as we could see here, all four are in agreement. The Euro, on the other hand, if I erase this, the European model is showing a little bit of a concern with some dry air entrainment right here and more dry air entrainment right here. We don't see that signal here on the GFS. We get a little bit of 500 millibar right there, but the core of the storm is up here. So would it rotate around? We'll see when we run the model a little bit further, but we do know that the GFS stays considerably stronger, at least through the short term, due to the cyclonic vorticity models that we've already looked at. So now as we run this out to day 5, the GFS has a well-developed system, maybe a little bit of dry air starting to entrain there in the 500 millibar level, but all in all, it looked pretty good. The Euro is still fighting that encapsulation of the dry air, which is helping to keep it weaker, which is allowing it to stay a little further to the south and a little bit faster to the west, being that it's on a lower level flow of winds compared to what we have with the GFS. Now, the GFS pulls well away from the windward, or not the windward, but the leeward islands and potentially Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and all our folks up there. This is something that I highly recommend that the folks there in the islands continue to monitor very closely as we go throughout the week this week, just to make sure that this isn't, if it is going to develop, we may want to get it out, obviously, to the north of the islands, and hopefully we don't get a repeat of Aaron that had indirect impacts. But Fernand would be, honestly, that would be the ideal scenario. This particular system, or what could be future Gabrielle, as far as the models or what they're calling for, could be our next major hurricane of the Atlantic season. Taking a look at our wind shear model. Now, we've got the Euro on the left and the GFS on the right, and if we continue to run this forward, we will note that there is a little bit of shear associated with just to the north of where Gabrielle would be. So is it going to use that as an enhancement? Is this upper level low going to, impede any type of development? Is it going to help inject dry air into it? There is quite a bit of questions, but all in all, the GFS really wants to give it a good environment, as to where the Euro wants to keep this belt of shear just to its north. And with the amount of dry air that is associated with it, it will be questionable as to exactly what type of intensification could occur, although the GFS really wants to just let it rip, so to speak. So if we run this out to getting out towards day 10, by this time the Euro's really starting to consolidate and absolutely goes bonkers later on in the run, if you were to run it out into Alice in Wonderland's fairy tale. hour on the models. And if we look at the GFS, this thing, by this point in time, this is a very well developed system and damn near a monster. So, folks, even here in Bermuda, just keep an eye on this. We've already seen what Aaron and Fernand have done as far as their tracks are concerned. So, just kind of keep an eye on this one. Don't let your guard down. And I'll show you why when we hear in about maybe about 8 frames, because things get very concerning as we get through the month of September here. So what we have here now is the NOAA blend of models over the next, as far as accumulated total rainfall over the next 10 days, and then we have our official WPC or Weather Prediction Center's rainfall forecast over the next 7 days. I'm going to run this forward, and we've got that frontal boundary that is forecast to kind of hang over the southern portions of the Florida Peninsula, and we're not playing around with these rainfall totals, folks. Potentially 7 inches from the Weather Prediction Center over the next 7 days for West Palm Beach, 5.9 down here for the Miami area, 4.5 over here for Naples, 4.2 for folks down here into the Keys. This frontal boundary that is going to stall out over portions of the open waters will need to be monitored for tropical cyclone development. I will show you that here momentarily. If we run the NOAA blend of models out, as we could see, the rainfall continues even through day 7. So from 7 to 10, the models are still calling for, that particular weather pattern to stick. Now, looking at the ensembles, we've got quite a bit of variance. First off, because I know folks are going to look at this and be like, oh Lord, here we go. Please keep in mind, we've got a great amount of variables here, to where you've basically got development that could go from anywhere from about 12 to 15, 16, 17 degrees north. Where it develops is going to be absolutely critical, on top of when does it develop. That will also be extremely critical. If it develops early, and it develops further to the north, it is likely to pull off to the north long before it gets to the islands here. If it remains weak and it remains a little bit further to the south due to some dynamics that I will attempt to show you here in a moment on Earth null, if this remains a little bit further or a little bit weaker and a little bit further to the south and delays development time, well, it is still forecast to develop for the most part, but then it's going to intensify, then try to turn to the north, and it may run out of time to get it further to the north than what the islands are. So it is highly, highly recommended that the general population here, especially in the leewards and just the areas that were concerned and monitored for Aaron and stuff like that, and maybe even getting down further to the south. So folks here in the islands, please keep a watch on this. And even if you're in Bermuda and stuff like that, just monitor this. Check back with the National Hurricane Center once a day, because right now we are looking at the climatological peak of hurricane season through this 10-day model. And before I get to the Euro AI, something that I do have to discuss here. Okay. I've been seeing more and more and more increased signal coming out here along the south and central portions of the Gulf of Mexico, and maybe a little bit of a hint down here into the Western Caribbean, but it's mostly been up north of the Yucatan Peninsula and maybe down here into the Bay of Campeche. We're definitely going to have to watch this area, especially with these stalled out frontal boundaries, as the parent low pressure that was associated with the trough lifts off to the north and to the east. It could leave little areas or eddies in behind, and if it breaks free from that frontal boundary, it can become its own tropical cyclonic entity. And then we don't have much time to prepare because the damn thing's right on our doorstep as it's developing. So just make sure that you're checking back with the National Hurricane Center at least once a day. We'll be here live every night through Halloween, but just be careful. I have a funny feeling that our second half of the season is going to be a little ridiculously backloaded. And I hope I'm wrong. But it's not very often when it comes to this stuff. And especially we're just getting into that time of the year. So comparing our Euro legacy with our Euro AI, if you just look at the difference, the Euro legacy has got some pretty significant intensity with quite a bit of development. The Euro AI is still kind of sporadic with the development and doesn't have a lot of intensity on it. So it's there's a huge glaring difference between the Euro and the Euro AI. If we compare that with the GEFS is a lot stronger, quicker, and pulls it up and out faster. Now, that could potentially lead to a threat out here for the folks in Bermuda, or it could honestly turn off to the right well before it even gets to Bermuda. But as far as what the GEFS is calling for and their ensembles, they are pulling it up to the north to the northwest and west northwest for a good amount of its track, with development quite early, as we've seen with the GFS operational. So, all in all, it's something that we will continue to monitor, but we don't have a developed storm yet, so it's too early to hypothesize as to what we're going to be looking at. So, looking at our Google DeepMind now, I'm not necessarily going to pull up anything on this because if you notice our front wave, the Google DeepMind is very, very weak on that. It does not have much of a coherent signal. But as we get further and further into time, the one thing that I will note is that there is a large line of potential development here, and all of this is associated with the intertropical convergence zone. And we could see little areas of spin up or eddies develop on those collision of the two air masses somewhere along the main development region in here into the tropical Atlantic. Now, if I run this forward and get this out into La La Land, as you can see, the overall majority of the tracks want to pull this off into the north and northwest. So, all in all, we may be looking decently. While we have the Google DeepMind up, I do want to mention Lorena here, still running a decent signal to potentially drive it into portions of the Baja Peninsula here, though some do want to keep it off. I can tell you that the official forecast track does have it going into the Baja Peninsula, and we have tropical storm watches already in effect. If we were to look at Kiko, now this is a hurricane now, and pretty damn impressive looking on the satellite. We still have the potential for this to get uncomfortably close to the islands. So folks out here in Hawaii, you're still going to need to monitor that. If we take a look at our nightly MJO update, we can see that it is coming back around, still within the circle, coming back around towards the Western Hemisphere and the Indian Ocean region. We will continue to monitor this and update on this as we go through the upcoming days. Looking at Earth Null, right there, that is our area of interest, denoted by our green, trusty green circle. That is the surface. There is 1 mile up above the ocean surface, and if you notice, the 850 millibar is not associated with this little surface vortice and this eddy. It would be a little bit more over here, and then if we look there with the other surface eddy, it is not associated with the 850 millibar vorticity either. So it is a highly disorganized system, and this is why the National Hurricane Center has not given this an area of invest tag on it, because it's kind of a sloppy mess right now. Now, if we come up to the 700 millibar level, you'll notice an area of low pressure here associated similar with the 850, but we're missing the surface. So it is in its consolidation phase. The 500 millibar level does not really have much. And then our wind shear level has, a decent amount of upper level divergence, as you can see here. Maybe just a little bit of a shearing component, but it's not much at all. Dry air is its main nemesis right now. All right, there's not really much more that I can talk about on Earth Null, other than we're going to go to the 850 and we're going to run this forward 24 hours, and now we're at 48. And as you could see here, we've got the development of what would be Gabrielle, but then look over here and Lorena. At this point, it is forecast to be strong enough to be able to feel a little bit more of a higher, flow up here at the 500 millibar level, and potentially run along this troughing feature and get up in associate with this high pressure right here, and a small weakness in it due to, let me slide, I gotta erase that, due to this troughing feature right here. This would cause a weakness and allow this to kind of creep in, because this high pressure here is what's steering Kiko. But this does not get low enough and weak enough, and if it does, then it would head this way and fall apart. But a lot of question. All right. Now, we get to the point of the program to where I don't really want to talk about it, but unfortunately I got to talk about it. This is the brand new Global Tropics Hazards Outlook from the Climate Prediction Center that was issued just this afternoon. This is hot off the presses, folks. This is brand new. And as you can see, valid week 2, September 10th through the 16th. That stalled out frontal boundary and the main development region, plus the Eastern Pacific goes crazy. Now, granted, we do see a little bit of development in the week 3. Yesterday, in last week's graphic, we did not have the potential for tropical cyclone development here in from September 10th through the 16th in the Western Pacific. We do now. If we look at from week 3, from the 17th through the 23rd, this is going to be, this is week 2, this is week 3, and you don't see much difference. Actually see an increase in signal. And although, and I'm going to try to point it out, right here, you see that green. Let's try to go from here. You see the green right there into the southern Florida Peninsula? Well, we get a little bit right there into the southern Florida Peninsula as well. We could be looking at an extremely, extremely wet September for our friends down here, especially on the southern half of the Florida Peninsula, with tropical cyclone development potentials along the stalled out frontal boundary through at least the end of the 3rd week of September. So it is things that we are really going to have to keep an eye on, folks. Hurricane season is far from done. Now, the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook is issued by the Climate Prediction Center, and for folks that may want a little bit more information, they do include the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook discussion. Now, I am not going to read this to you guys tonight, because a lot of it is very, very technical, and I may end up having to explain a lot more from the technical side. This first paragraph strictly denotes about the Madden-Julian oscillation and con- some convectively or convectively coupled Kelvin waves. I knew I'd get it here. They're CCKWs. That's how I refer to them, just by their acronym. But that doesn't help anybody if I just rip off 4 letters. You guys, it makes no difference to you guys. This second paragraph here, right here, this represents what has formed over the past week and what is expected over, and why they put what they put up on week 2 and week 3. So this second one is the majority of our tropical cyclone development. And for our precipitation forecasts, that would be paragraph 3. So just to kind of give everybody, if you do go and read it from the Climate Prediction Center, this is the homepage. This is what you'd see if you go in. Right here, the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook. If you click that link, this is what comes up. Comes out every Tuesday. If you want to just look at the tropical cyclones, there are links here on the right-hand side. This is for just the Atlantic Basin, as you could see here. So you could get up close and personal. The precipitation only map, as you could see here. So you could get a lot of information from this Global Tropics Hazards Outlook. And there's a reason why I'm telling everybody to please monitor the National Hurricane Center. Go day by day, folks. As you can see, we're headed into the climatological peak of hurricane season, and the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook map and graphical forecast through the September 23rd definitely represents that we're due. We're due for the light switch to turn on in the Atlantic Basin to go absolutely crazy. All right, I am going to. Okay. All right, I'm going to check, see if you guys have any questions about the Atlantic. Please let me know. I am now going to jump in to the Eastern Pacific because we've got action for sure. All right, jumping in, as we can see, we have 2 named systems out here into the Eastern Pacific, one with a threat potentially for Hawaiian interests, the other one a threat for Mexico and potentially the southwestern United States interests. So, real quick, we're going to look at Kiko first. As you can see, Kiko is really starting to get its act together, trying its hardest to clear that center of circulation and to have the suppression, and the very efficient engine of a tropical cyclone. If it can clear that eye and establish an inner eye wall and an inner core to protect itself from some of the dry air that is present in the region. Excuse me. This right here is going to be a potential threat for the Hawaiian Islands. So currently, we are located at 13.9 north, 128.9 west, about 1,775 miles east of Hilo, Hawaii. Maximum sustained winds have increased to 100 miles an hour, moving west at 6 miles an hour. It may be a little bit slower than tropical cyclones like. If it doesn't speed up a little bit, it could upwell and potentially cause a little bit of interference with its strengthening processes. Minimum central pressure of 980 millibars. Currently, there are no coastal watches or warnings in effect, and no hazards affecting land. If we look at the forecast track, as you can see, the forecast track brings us out to just about 143 degrees west. The view here ends at about 152. But look what happens when I slide this just a little bit to the left. Now, One thing, there is some cooler waters, especially as we could see 16 degrees north. Uh, Remember that. Okay, we've got the 16-degree north line is right about here. Just remember that because I'm going to show you some sea surface temperatures out here momentarily. We should, once it gets up here like this, and if it were to take a track like this or even take a track more like this, the water temperatures to the east of the Hawaiian Islands do not necessarily support tropical cyclone activity. Now, once we get to the other side of the Hawaiian Islands, well, that's little bit of a different story. Those water temperatures are quite warm, and you'll see it's a dramatic difference. So, looking at the discussion, the one thing that I would like to point out here is paragraph 3. Through the next 48 hours, Kiko should remain over sea surface temperatures of 27 to 28 degrees Celsius with light to moderate easterly wind shear. But the relatively dry and stable environment is making the intensity forecast tricky. There is a larger than normal spread among the various intensity models. Between days 3 and 4, water temperatures along Kiko's path will begin to decrease while it also moves into a progressively drier air mass. The NHC intensity forecast continues to lie at the high end of the guidance suite through day 3, but is now close to the middle of the guidance envelope at days 4 and 5. They are now calling for Kiko to become a Category 3 major hurricane. We'll see. We'll see if it stops at 115, because this here from Tropical Tidbits is our water temperatures and our sea surface temperatures. Right now, Kiko is located right about here, where this circle is, right here. As you could see, and remember me telling you about the 16-degree north line, looky there. Anything in the yellow is supportive of tropical cyclone development and, maintaining intensity. Anything into the greens is getting a little suspect. When we get into the lighter greens, you forget it. The water temperatures aren't there. The oceanic heat content is very minimal. But as you can see, as this is forecast to continue to the west and then begin to draw up towards the west, northwest, and northwest, this, once it crosses over about that line, maybe 17 degrees, 16 degrees, somewhere in that range, we're going to start to lose some of that oceanic energy that it is feeding off of right now. So that is at least a positive sign for our folks and friends here in the Hawaiian Islands. We could be looking at a weakening trend, an expected weakening trend, as Kiko were potentially get close. It could completely fall apart before it even gets there. All right, now jumping over to Lorena. This is a brand new tropical storm, and this is consolidating rather quickly. And as you can see, it is approaching land rather fast. This just became a tropical storm just recently. Watches are already in effect. These folks here had very little preparation time for this, and this is why it is always recommended to monitor the National Hurricane Center tropical outlook before a storm is named. Now, if we check out on Lorena here, we are located currently at 19.4 degrees north, 109.0 degrees west, about 310 miles west of Manzanillo, Mexico, and about 250 miles south-southeast of Cabo San Lucas. Maximum sustained winds have increased to 50 miles an hour, and it is currently moving northwest at 15 miles an hour with the minimum central pressure down to 1,002 millibars. The government of Mexico has issued a tropical storm watch for portions of the Baja Peninsula. We will show that via graphic because I'm not going to try to pronounce those, even though I probably could. But it's better in a graphical format anyway. Our hazards affecting land, the most important point of any National Hurricane Center public advisory is always, always, always the hazards affecting land. Rainfall. Areas of heavy rainfall well east and northeast of Lorena will continue to impact portions of northwestern Mexico from the states of Colima to Sinaloa today, with isolated flash flooding possible in areas of mountainous terrain. Bands of heavy rainfall are expected to begin impacting Baja California Sur by Wednesday and southwestern Sonora by Thursday, with this rainfall potentially persisting through Friday. Rainfall of 4 to 8 inches with maximum amounts of 12 inches possible across portions of the Baja California Sur and southwestern Sonora through Friday. Uncertainty remains with these totals, and locally higher or lower amounts are possible depending on the track and strength of this system. Potentially significant flash flooding is a possibility. And our wind, tropical storm conditions are possible, obviously, or we wouldn't have a tropical storm watch issued. If we look at our interactive map here this evening, as you can see, from Puerto San Carlos all the way down to Cabo San Lucas, we have our tropical storm watch in effect, the extreme southern portion here. And if we look at the forecast cone, comes up over central portions of the Baja Peninsula across the Gulf of California into southern or extreme northwestern portions of Mexico, would likely fall apart at this time. We could put the track out on it, and as you could see, is forecast to be a post-tropical depression. But just because the winds aren't there doesn't mean that the moisture isn't going to continue along. And look what's further up above. This is forecast to potentially come up in, and also for the folks here in Texas, watch out. Watch out. So just keep an eye on this storm. Our rainfall amounts could get a little ridiculous. Still too early to say because we don't know exactly how intense Lorena is going to be. We don't know. I mean, it is forecast to become a hurricane, as you can see here by the forecast track. But is how much of a hurricane is it going to become? That's the question. And the stronger it is, the more it's going to feel that upper flow, the more it's going to want to turn, the more it's going to, the longer it's going to stay. Just the more moisture is going to be associated with it, and the longer it can stay a little bit more together, and then definitely increased rainfall across the southeast. So our discussion. Now, obviously, we could, read through all this, but we're not going to here tonight. We are going to come down here onto basically getting into the intensity forecast, because the track, everything to do with the track has to do with the intensity. So if it is stronger, it's going to feel that more northeasterly flow. If it is weaker, it might not feel that northeasterly flow at all if it weakens. So it's kind of hit or miss. Right now, definitely trust the National Hurricane Center, but there is some uncertainty in the forecast. So Lorena is expected to remain fairly small inner core through with ample moisture and warm sea surface temperatures for the next 24 to 36 hours. Forecasts are for steady intensification towards hurricane status by Wednesday. There is some potential that Lorena may rapidly intensify in the short term given its structure and favorable environment. As Lorena crosses the 26 degrees Celsius isotherm in 2 to 3 days, vertical wind shear will also increase, and the overall intensity should start to weaken by late in the week. As the cyclone turns northeastward, slow weakening is expected with eventual dissipation over Sonora by Saturday. The intensity forecast is on the higher end of the guidance envelope. As you could see, we do have key messages. And the National Hurricane Center is forecasting Lorena to get up to potentially 85 miles an hour at its maximum strength here in around the 36-hour mark, though rapid intensification, there is some potential for rapid intensification in the short term. So it could go higher than 85 over the next 36 hours. As we could see with the rainfall forecast. Now, we do have a widespread 4 to 6 inches here on the southern portion of the Baja Peninsula, and getting up towards just one little spot here into the central. But as we can remember, this little pocket right here has this gray hatched area, which then represents lower confidence in its overall forecast. And this is where the locally 12 plus inches could fall. And if you notice, though, it is over the open waters. Oh, wow, that was a terrible circle. It is over the open waters of the Gulf of California here. So, again, lower confidence in that forecast. All right, getting out here towards the key messages. We've pretty much gone over everything. I just want to reinforce that we do have tropical storm watches currently in effect for the Baja Peninsula, and heavy rainfall is possible over the next, today's Tuesday, so over the next 72 hours. So please, folks, please bear in mind and follow your official forecast. You can find that here through the database associated with the page. And as you can see, you click on North America, come down here to Mexico, click on Mexico, and it will take you straight to the Government of Mexico Meteorological Service, and they've already got disclaimers here for Tropical Storm Lorena. Looking at our earliest reasonable arrival time of tropical storm force winds, you don't have much time. If you are on the extreme southern portion of the peninsula there, earliest reasonable arrival time of winds maybe in and around sunrise tomorrow morning, and the most likely arrival time would be tomorrow evening. So intensity is going to play a major factor with this. The overnight diurnal cycle will be critical. Does this undergo a bout of rapid intensification during the overnight hours? We wake up in the morning to surprise. It's possible. That's very possible. If we look at the forecast ensembles out here for the Eastern Pacific, again, potential signal from the Euro legacy out here getting towards Hawaii. Everything is pretty much weakening as it pulls further and further to the north. We have a decent amount of potential turning off to the northeast from the Euro legacy getting into parts of the Baja Peninsula, although the majority of the Euro legacy has it weakening as it pulls further off to the northwest, and then getting caught up in that high pressure, that low level flow, and eventually succumbing to the hostile conditions for tropical cyclones. If we compare this with the Euro AI has Kiko much further south than what the Legacy does. The Euro AI has very few of these systems, or very few of these ensembles, dissipating Lorena enough to turn it to the left. The majority of the ensemble members wants to turn this and up into the north and to the east. If we compare that with the GEFS, the stronger members, again, with the GEFS, feel that more mid-level, upper-level flow, then turn to the north and to the east and drive up here into, with that residual moisture, into the south and southwestern portions of the United States. If we were to get it a little weaker, it could then turn out to the left. But the National Hurricane Center forecast is for this to cross over the peninsula, or the Baja Peninsula, and into mainland Mexico over the next 70 to 96 hours. If we compare it with Kiko, as we could see, the GEFS does not have Kiko Really, we're at 980 millibars. Anything else brings it into the red colors. We don't see that, so it's they're running a little on the weak side with Kiko, and Kiko is very very small, it's very tiny, very compact. So it's difficult for the global models to pick up on such an intense system that is so small. That said, we do see the consistency of weakening if once it pulls a little bit too far to the north. So, again, things that we are definitely going to be monitoring, folks in the Hawaiian Islands. Please monitor the progress of Kiko and check with your local National Weather Service office. All right, jumping out to the Western Pacific. We only have one show in town. That is Invest 95W, now with a high potential of tropical cyclone development. And we do have another area of interest down here as well. So, all in all, it's thankfully not too overly exciting out there into the Western Pacific. And right now, we don't have anybody being impacted or land being impacted right now, though a couple of them have the potential to threaten some folks. So please, please, please monitor your local weather service office or your official government meteorological agencies and the National Hurricane Center. All right, everybody, I am going to go ahead. I think that's about all we have. So, yeah, I am going to go ahead and shut it down tonight. We will be back live again tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, here on Facebook and YouTube. So if you guys got any questions, just let us know. Come on, stop on in. Ask away, give us things to talk about, and we'll see how the models and everything change for tomorrow night. Right now, we're watching the trends, and maybe we'll get an area of invest tag to our Atlantic spot out here, and we'll get a little bit more. We'll get halves to run on it, we'll get H-Wharf, we'll get H-Mon, and we'll, get a few more products that we can run some comparisons with the global models with. So with that, everybody, have a wonderful evening. We'll talk to you again tomorrow night. Good night.